everyone, welcome back to the Creatively Thinking podcast. Join Carolyn Botello as she uncovers the inspirations behind some incredibly creative minds that are orbiting our local communities. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Creatively Thinking podcast. And today we have a guest with us, the multi-talented creative director and graphic designer from Oakville, Ontario, Graeme Luey. And he's now based in Mexico City, Mexico. Can you tell the audience how this came about? What is the reason you chose to go down there, and what led you to Mexico as a creative director?
Hey, Carolyn, how are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm good.
And how I came down to Mexico. Well, I came down with a few friends just to work remotely in January of 2021. The idea was to come down for 3 weeks to a city called Merida, which is in the Yucatan. And while we were down here, Canada put a COVID hotel in place. And they were saying it cost $2,000 to come back home when you got to the border and take a COVID test and stay in a hotel for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And it was cheaper for me to just stay in Mexico for 4 months than it was to come home at that point. So I also was only there for 3 days when that happened. So the rest of the friends I was with panicked and went home 3 days later. And I still had 2.5 weeks left of my trip.
Mhm.
So rather than canceling the rest of the trip and spending all the money just to fly home right away, I
Mhm.
decided to stay in Mexico and see how that worked out. I just figured if I was going to be stuck inside quarantining, then I might as well be somewhere warm and not gray and miserable in February in Toronto. So I flew down to Puerto Escondido, which is a surf town, and I took a brief trip to Oaxaca City and then back down to Puerto because nothing was really locked down here. It was still pretty open. They still had masks in place and COVID protocols like temperature checks and sanitizing your hands, stuff like that. But they were keeping it somewhat open so that people could kind of still, within reason, go out and do stuff. So I was able to still go to the beach, hang out down there, swim, go surfing,
Mhm.
all stuff that was still, socially distanced or, so to prevent the infection. But yeah, it was a little bit more open here and outdoorsy. So yeah, while I was here, I just liked it enough that on my way home in June, I stopped in Mexico City for 5 days and then went to visit a friend in
Mhm.
Playa del Carmen and before going home, and then realized, kind of while I was in Puerto
Mhm.
and in Mexico City, that I didn't really have any reason to go back to Toronto necessarily, aside from friends and family, but I can always fly back and visit. Um, but down here it was just so much more,
Mhm.
friendly people. It's a little bit more easygoing. The weather's nice most of the year. I don't have to put up with the winter, which is not a season that I enjoy. So yeah,
Yeah, I could definitely say, yeah, that's not a fun part of Canada. Is our winters.
no, yeah, I've never enjoyed that. So yeah, so I made the decision to get rid of a bunch of my stuff, store some things back home, and come back down to Mexico City and see what happened.
Okay, wow, that's a good story. Just yeah, get to the good weather, right? And figure it out from there. Yes. Enjoy the good weather, yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Graeme, we have known each other since just before you started as the director at #Gallery in Toronto, Canada, a gallery devoted to bringing the brightest talent to Toronto together. Could you tell us, when you were starting out in graphic design, what caused you to choose this road as a creative director? Do you love working with artists, curating artwork, or was it something else that made it more of a natural fit for you as a career path?
Well, I started out doing freelance graphic design when I graduated from OCAD. Um, it's always a tough slog going through a lot of that stuff and trying to find clients and projects. And there's also the frustration when you're starting out that a lot of people will just go to an already established design firm because they have an official company set up, they got clients already, and so it's having someone take a chance on an
Hmm.
individual is always a roll of the dice, and I found it really frustrating. And I did work as a graphic designer in the advertising department at the Toronto Sun, which was,
Hmm.
I don't know, working there was exactly what I assumed working there was going to be like. But I mean, that lasted for about 9 months and they downsized the positions in the department. And so I went back doing freelance stuff again. But, I went to school for graphic design because it was the kind of degree that you could get and then hand a resume in at an office and get a job from, as opposed to fine art where you're doing your own thing and you're creating and you're doing what you want to do, but
Hmm.
it's not necessarily a full-time job. And I guess the way that I saw it was more you're spending all this money to go to school, you should be getting a full-time job, paying off those. Well, I mean, I didn't really have any debt because I worked the entire time through school, cooking and working at a law firm. So I worked all the time to pay off the student loans as I got them. But um, I just 9 to 5 just wasn't what I wanted to do. I hated every single minute of it. So
Hmm.
the combination of getting a few graphic design gigs here and there and then working part-time in kitchens,
Hmm.
eventually I was just like, what am I doing? I like making art. I want to make art. I want to help
Yeah.
all these people that I went to school with who are in similar situations where they would, be super talented artists, but they would go to a gallery and say, hey, I want to do a show. Here's my portfolio. And then the gallery would turn around and say, well, you're an emerging artist. We don't deal with emerging artists. You need to have, three shows on your CV already or whatever it was, in order for us to even look at you, or you don't know the right people, or, you're not part of our club. And I just thought that was really stupid. And it sucks for a lot of artists and they get, to have that balloon deflated, I guess, as it were. Being all excited and making quality artwork and then having people turn around and say, well, no, you're not already part of the club, so you can't come in. So I decided to start my own space and, take that excuse away. Um, the idea was
Hmm.
to have a professional looking space that people could show their artwork
Hmm.
in, get those first 2 or 3 shows under their belt, and then they could take their portfolio to a bigger gallery that maybe is more reputable and ask them and say, hey, look, I've already done these shows. They sold really well. People like the artwork. It's less of a risk for you to take a chance on me and get a little experience doing that.
That sounds great. Like you've stopped that hurdle for artists that they were running into. Like it was like a wall that they were hitting as artists, right? That's great.
It was the hope, yeah, to help take away some of the barriers of entry.
Yeah. Reading about your background, Baboon Attack Studios is listed in your credentials. Was this something you were working on when you were in school, or was this a precursor for what you eventually began with hashtag gallery? How do you find these two parts of your career overlapping, or were they completely separate?
They're separate. The Bebo Tech Studios was just a kind of a fun name that myself and my business partner Adrian came up with.
Mm-hmm.
He went to graphic design school with me at OCAD, and we just thought it'd be kind of something that would stand out a little bit. That was kind of a fun name. It was named after a kickball team that I had that we were playing some pickup games, and we just thought it was kind of catchy, and we'd use it to
Mm-hmm.
stand out from the other places. But like our studio is just the two of us that kind of do stuff. So it's when different website design projects come up, the two of us will split the work on that. Usually if it's other kind of work like,
Mm.
packaging or brochure design kind of stuff, we just kind of take those on ourselves. But 'cause you don't really need to team up on a lot of that stuff. But
Yeah, kind of like a side hustle at the beginning kind of thing. Just getting started, right? Yeah.
yeah, it was just kind of something fun to register a business as and not just be under our own names. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we still do stuff from here and there, but it's just kind of on the side. It's not really a hasn't been a main focus lately. The last project we worked on was designing a typeface. So we have I think about 5 of them done right now. We just have to the idea is to do two more, I think, like an ultra bold italic and an ultra thin italic. and regular fonts, and then
Hmm.
the rest of them were done. Then we were going to figure out how to properly like get a font out there in the marketplace and get some people to buy it.
When you started this path over a decade ago, how did you see its success unfolding? Did you have a business plan that fell into place, or was there a lot more coordinating and decision making that you didn't expect when you first started? Were your connections with Oakville important for this shift in your career, or would you say OCAD connections played more of a role, or was it more complicated than that?
I would say it's a little more complicated, but also a little easier than that. I mean, a lot of this stuff, like I went to school for graphic design. I didn't go to school for, running a gallery or being a gallerist. So a lot of it was learning from what other galleries have been doing, asking a lot of questions to other gallery owners, people that I had known in the past that do stuff or were doing something similar to me. Um, and then just kind of doing a lot of reading and researching and figuring out how pricing worked, finding, talking to salespeople, like seeing what their experience was like in other galleries. Um, but then honestly, a lot of it was just making it up as we went along.
Yeah, figuring it out, right?
It's, we did write out a business plan. We had certain things we were intending on doing.
Hmm.
Um, but then once you start actually doing them, those things don't always happen the way you plan it out. You can always make estimates and assume that you're going to do things like, I mean, one of the things we were planning on doing was having one big party every month, and we, sell a bunch of beers,
Yeah.
and that'll bring in, like $1,000 or whatever. Um, that stuff, that part didn't really happen because the first location we had, the neighbor that lived next door would call the police on us if there was any noise, whatsoever after 7 p.m. So
Hmm.
like, yeah, so stuff like that, obviously we couldn't have a party, even though it was, 11 o'clock is kind of the given curfew kind of time for sound in Toronto. We had a neighbor that would constantly call the cops on us if it was, yeah, like noisy after, 7 p.m. on a Saturday. So,
Hmm.
stuff like that kind of put a wrench in our plans. So that was a big part of it. And then, just other things that come up as you go along. You don't really like the unforeseen things like, your toilet exploding or whatever. Like random stuff like that'll come up that, you don't realize how expensive it is unless you've gone through it once or whatever. Um, but so, I mean, there wasn't an original business plan. We had ideas all written out.
Hmm.
Um, and then reality kind of comes in. You got to just,
Hmm.
make things up as you go along and adjust and adapt, basically. But I mean, in
Yeah.
terms of connections everywhere are important. That's,
Hmm.
I mean, in my opinion, I would say that's probably the most important thing
Yeah.
in any business is who you know, and especially in the art world, because the whole thing is,
Hmm.
mostly gatekeeping by people. So yeah, who you know is more important, and
Hmm.
collaborating with people is important. And, even something like getting an outside curator that's not, I mean, I curated most of the shows over the 10 years that we were in Toronto, but probably inviting in a curator once in a while that wasn't just me would have been a great idea. And we did that sometimes, but we probably should have done it a lot more because teaming up with somebody else, you're obviously going to get more of a crowd coming into your space that doesn't already know you.
Hmm.
And someone else is excited about the show, and they're trying to make money off it as well. So there's motivation from them to make it all work and to advertise it properly. So
Well, it sounds like had to do a lot of thinking on your feet when you were, just getting started with all of this. A lot of unexpected sort of things happening.
yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
and for like the way that we run our gallery was how we wanted it to run. We didn't really run it the way that everyone else
Yeah.
runs theirs necessarily. And the intention was never to be exactly the same as everybody else, which I think is why it worked so well.
Hmm.
Doing what we were doing in Toronto, especially for the first 5 or 6 years of it, because it was still fairly new on the scene, and there
Hmm.
wasn't as many other galleries doing similar things that we were doing. So it was a different type of gallery, a different type of show, um, and we were a little more experimental with how we hung shows in the space and what type of events we did
Hmm.
in the area. So
Yeah.
it was something fresh, I think, at least for a while.
Where were you mentally when you started this journey? Would you say you have grown so much since your first days as a director? Or would you say it has become predictable and very regular in the gallery workload and content? How has it kept you on your toes creatively, or how has your journey creatively evolved over time?
Where would I mention when I started this journey? Well, I had never run a business where I had a physical location
Mm-hmm.
before. So, I mean, I've always worked for other people. So obviously switching over to a gallery where I'm the one that's in charge.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a few business partners along the way too. I'm not saying they didn't do it. Like they did quite a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
But all of us were kind of doing it for the first time. Um, but again, it comes down to, like I was saying, we just kind of made things up as we went along. As in, if I went into a gallery, this is what I want to see. So let's just do that
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to stick to what everybody else is doing and putting, like evenly measured out pieces along the wall that have lots of white space. Like, why can't we hang things really high or, really low or paint a mural on the wall that goes along with the show? Stuff like that was just more interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that, like our mental state was let's do what we want. People will come to us.
Sounds more experimental. What you guys were. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of the hope is that we do more experimental shows and stuff that people come in and kind of immerse themselves in as a more of an experience than just coming and seeing art on the wall. Which of course there's nothing wrong with. Like I like going into galleries and seeing just art on the wall as well. But yeah, the goal for us was to make it a little more interesting, a little more intriguing. And it didn't really matter what the other places were doing because we were already open and people already liked what we were doing. So there's no point in sticking to what the rules are because we didn't really care. But in terms of you know how it was growing as the first day, I think it was probably partly getting over that first hump, like I was saying, of not really caring how to do it properly and realizing that's okay and keep doing what we're doing because none of us that started a gallery went to school for directing a gallery. But as you went along, you realize that, I mean, I think this is kind of the case in a lot of places that even though people are adults, they're still just making it up as they go along. They don't really know what they're doing half the time either. So it doesn't really matter if that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I can still do it. I mean, as long as we're paying the bills and we're not, it's not costing us money every month, it's fine. We're still building a community. We're still helping artists that need the help. We're still making a little bit of money some months, and some months you're not. That's kind of how a new business goes, right? So, workload. In terms of workload, you get used to that kind of stuff. Like once you get things into kind of a schedule and you know what has to be done on a regular basis, it's just a matter of doing it and breaking it down into small chunks. And then if someone else, like a business partner or whatever, isn't keeping up their end of the deal, you got to kind of take over and take on that workload as well. But hopefully everyone kind of works along, does their bit, and yeah, all comes together.
When did you become connected with the Broken Cage Gallery in Toronto, Canada? When did you start using upcycled materials, or has this material been a focus in your artwork previously? How has this inspired or caused you to be more reflective and minimal in your content? Is it connected to your understanding of social media and its involvement in our daily lives?
The broken cage part. I met Eric when I met him through another friend at a different like art show. And then he opened up Broken Cage Gallery. So I went to their grand opening, was chatting with him because I used to do a monthly meetup with a bunch like of about four other galleries in Toronto that were all after we opened up, but they were kind of doing something similar to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to get together and kind of just chat about gallery stuff and just, what are people doing right? What are people doing wrong? Can we help each other out? How all that goes down. So like it was us and the Foundry Gallery or no, not Foundry, it was Creative Blueprint, sorry. Creative Blueprint was the name of the gallery. That's what it was. Patel's gallery was they had him and two other partners had a gallery. And then a few others. Anyways, the five of us would get together and just chat about gallery stuff and try and help each other out. We put on a couple of art fairs. And then when Eric opened his gallery up, I was chatting with him saying, hey, do you want to, meet up with us and kind of join in with stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he came to one of the meetings we had. But anyways, The reason why I was working with them more was because I have a bunch of screen prints that I made during COVID. And when I moved down to Mexico, I couldn't bring them with me, so I just asked him if he wanted to, represent me as an artist at his space and take a couple of copies of each of these prints to try and sell for the gallery and make a little money for himself.
And we'll be right back.
Yeah, yeah. So it was creative blueprint. It was a great graven feather. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Williamson had a gallery too on Roncesvalles. And then the one that Devin Patel and Cal and Alex started that was in the East End. But they were doing new shows every 2 weeks or something like that. And then Devin, I think, broke off into his own. He's doing his own thing with another gallery, or Patel Brown Gallery, I think it's called now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then one more. I guess when Emily opened her gallery up to the uh, the one that's in on Roncesvalles, now on Roncesvalles, Northern Contemporary. That was the other one too. Northern Contemporary Gallery. So yeah, we were all working together for a bit. With recycled materials, I started using that a long time ago because I realized that I was buying a lot of art supplies and they were just sitting around in my apartment and not being used. And when I made a new project or had a new kind of series of artwork in mind that I wanted to create, I would go out and buy new materials for it, specific to that project, rather than going through the materials I already had. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it just ends up being wasted because you've got, markers that dry out or paint that is half used in a tube and you can't really get the rust out or it dries out or whatever. And so, and especially during COVID when I couldn't, I mean, I started making this piece in 2018, so it was way before COVID, but it partly came because I had a bunch of canvas that I had found or that the landlord at our gallery was throwing in the garbage because it had a little bit of mold on the bottom and it was a whole bolt of canvas. So it was perfectly good and it was designed for outdoor furniture. So it was good, sturdy material. And then I realized I had a lot of like canvas stretcher bars around from old paintings or other artists that I know that were just kind of hobby artists would have stuff like stretcher bars lying around.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bunch of house paint in my apartment storage room area that wasn't being used. So that's kind of where I first started using it was
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
well, and collage work too. I used to do collage work before that too with old surfer magazines. So collage is obviously, recycling materials. So I guess that's kind of where it started. Then I kind of realized that, the house paint wasn't being used and it's perfectly good material to paint with. So I started using the old, half full paint cans just lying in people's garages, or, friends had half full bottles of spray paint or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Or they, decided they no longer wanted that hobby of painting. So they have a bunch of half used paint tubes and paintbrushes and stuff. So I just kind of inherited a bunch of stuff from different people in different places. And yeah, then during COVID, I started making my own paper for stuff as well to try and take it one step further than that. And I guess that's kind of where it's at. So yeah, paintings are all made out of the canvas looked brand new. It was just one little part that had mold on it. I cut that part off and threw it in the garbage. And then the rest of it I used. So yeah, I guess it was just, and from that point, it was just more about thinking consciously about what you're actually using to make artwork out of, because it's not really necessary to go and buy new things every single time. Um, like, and so the point's kind of like, trying to get that message across to other people saying, when you're making stuff, think about it. I'm sure you can figure out a way to do this without going out and buying brand new stuff
Mm-hmm.
every time you do a new project.
Yeah, it's like reduce, reuse, recycle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just use what you have. Makes sense. How do you see your influence as a director at the hashtag gallery has influenced or impacted other artists? Has it been your style or your curatorial experience or something else? Was this how you wanted to be involved with artists rather than primarily being an artist or designer? Or do you like both sides of the creative process?
I'll start with the last part first here. I would say I like both sides of the creative process. I mean, I really enjoy seeing other people's artwork, and if I can bring their work into my own gallery and do a show with it, that's even better. But I also like making my own art. My overall goal is to, stop doing design work and just focus on my own creative stuff, whether it's,
Mhm.
using design to make stuff like screen prints or whatever, or whether it's, I guess going the other side of the art spectrum and being a fine artist where I only paint or
Mhm.
whatever. My plan is to keep doing multidisciplinary art practices or art projects or, series. But I do really enjoy the aspect of throwing the shows and having people come over to the gallery, meeting all sorts of new people, hanging an interesting show that people come by and say, hey, this looks amazing, taking Instagram photos in front of, posing for portraits with stuff. Like that, there's always something nice about that when people are responding to it and that they're enjoying themselves when they come into the space. In terms of influence, I don't really ever think about that, to be honest. I'm sure that I have. And I have had artists that, come by later and said, thank you so much. Like the show, has let me do other things in bigger places. Or, because my show sold out here, I was able to get a contract with, like Nike or something like that, doing a creative ad campaign or something. Like, so like that stuff does kind of pop up, but I never really think about that, to be honest. I'm sure that there has been some kind of stuff, and I'm sure I've helped a bunch of artists, but I mean, not everyone comes up and says that, so I don't really know offhand which ones, because it was because of me, and I don't really care if it was because of me or not. I mean, as long as they succeeded in the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
Mhm. When you look back on these last 11 years since the hashtag gallery initially opened, as a graphic designer and artist based in Toronto, what changes have you seen in the art business during your years as a director of the hashtag gallery? Have there been any visible changes, or has it been a gradual shift in style and practices? Have any other galleries you've become familiar with shown you any new techniques or strategies on how to run a gallery more efficiently?
Have I been taught how to make a gallery more efficient? Probably, I'm sure. Um,
I kind of realized you did actually sort of answer that some of that.
well, yeah, I mean, in terms of like tips and tricks and stuff, that was kind of what I was mentioning about when we met up with the other galleries once a month. We would kind of just say, hey, I found
Mm-hmm.
this new, invoicing software or something that works really well and it's free. Like go check it out. Or I started writing artist contracts a different way. Maybe think about adding these into yours. This works really well for me.
Yeah, it's been working for you guys.
Stuff like that. And like I was also mentioning, like because we just make things up as we go along, I'm sure there's better
Mm-hmm.
ways and better strategies to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've been doing has been working. So yeah, it's working for us. And I think that at the end of the day, that's kind of most of what you want to do. Most of with the art world is networking, right? So that's always the biggest part of it. So as long as the rest of things are moving along and you're paying your rent, your hydro, and your internet bills and stuff,
Yeah.
and people are coming in the doors to see the shows and you're making sales, whatever you're doing is good.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be ways to make it a whole lot more. Usually those ways come along with spending a lot more money on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're a little bit more of a grassroots, do-it-yourself type space. So uh, we've always got to just done what we can with what we have and get creative. But I guess in terms of visible changes, I mean, changes in the art world kind of come with whatever's in vogue, right? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
always certain target groups of artists that are coming in and out of the spotlight depending on current political takes on things. So obviously that's changed over 11 years from one group to another group to another group to another group. I don't know if there's anything like super drastic I've seen. I think everything's kind of does what it does and flows along, and you just got to kind of pay attention to the art world news and see what's popular. Usually places like New York or London or whatever are the ones that are going to be the tastemakers and telling people what's in, or if you follow like the results from auctions. Yeah.
Yeah. What's coming down the line kind of thing, right?
Like usually what people at places like New York or London or whatever make kind of the choices, the art advisors there are the ones that kind of say what's in style. And you'll also see what people are buying through the auctions, all the auction houses. And that kind of gives you an idea of what the art to buy is that year or that month or whatever. And it seems like even like the high end art world, people usually, invest.
Mhm.
$50,000 in a piece and then wait 5 years and then flip it at auction for a huge profit. Now it seems like they're waiting, they're buying the
Mhm.
piece and before the paint's even dry, they're already trying to flip it at the next auction and just make money off of it. So I think that's one thing I've noticed a lot lately is that it seems like pieces are being bought and sold quicker and quicker and just to make a profit with. So, but that's how it's always been. It just, you just don't hear about that as quite as much unless you're following our real news.
Yeah, you're just noticing it more because you're in the art world, right? You're more in tune with what's happening. So it's you're noticing it more.
Yeah. I mean, the average person probably doesn't know much that's most that's going on, but like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty, it's a pretty weird
Hmm.
place.
When you look back on these last 11 years since the hashtag gallery initially opened, what would you say has been your biggest accomplishment or your biggest misstep? Was it a steep learning curve managing the gallery? Did you have any previous experience running a gallery? Or has your network of artists helped with the experience with running a gallery?
I mean, the biggest accomplishment, I think, is keeping things going as long as we did, helping the artists that we've been able to help. Uh, we won a few, best gallery in the city awards from places like, Now Magazine or other like business magazine type things that, they had audience votes and stuff. So that's always good. I think that's pretty cool. We were able to go to Art Basel, well, not Art Basel Miami, but like Scope Art Fair, which is one of the satellite fairs. So that was pretty big. We got ourselves out on the international stage and had people come up to us and say, "Hey, we've heard of you before." So that's kind of cool. Um, that's about a mural festival in Montreal. I think mostly it's just like building ourselves up, meeting a lot of artists and meeting, better and better and better artists, being able to work with them, showing that we know how to throw shows and can do it right. That would be, all that sounds good, but our main accomplishment is helping the artists that need the help
Mm-hmm.
and giving them a place to show their stuff and actually, get their confidence to keep going and keep painting and all that. Because that was the whole point of the gallery to start with was to help people that need the help or that want the help and want to help themselves. So that would be the biggest accomplishment, I think, is being able to have done that for people. The biggest misstep, I mean, we tried to do a big show in Toronto with a well-known Spanish artist, uh, and his management team was a complete disaster. Didn't care about the show at all. Lied about a bunch of the costs and cost us, $12,000 in the end over top of the budget they already went for. So that was a bit of a misstep because they basically took advantage of us,
Oh my.
took control. Like we had certain things written out in the contract, and they basically didn't follow a lot of those things, and then just said, if you don't do this, we just won't do the show. So that was with Okuda, the big rainbow mural inside the building we had there.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole management team was just an absolute disaster and just didn't care whatsoever about that whole show. They didn't promote it on their social media channels. They didn't help us out with pretty much anything at all. They just got there, used it as a free flight to get to Canada, and then said, "See you later," and left us holding the bag. So that was a learning experience.
Mm.
It's more just make sure you get absolutely everything in writing
Yes.
and be specific. Don't make it too,
Yes. Get contracts. Yeah.
yeah, like the
Oh,
contract
wow.
was there, but there was also like certain things in there where, we didn't say
Mm-hmm.
this is the Airbnb you're staying at specifically.
Mm.
And then his manager just changed her mind at the last minute and said, I'm not staying there. I'm
Mm.
staying in this place over here. I'll bill you later for it.
Oh my.
Like stuff like that. It just, would have been nice to know ahead of time. And, when we ship stuff from their studio to here, we have an importer exporter that we were using. He got to the door of their studio and it was twice as heavy as they said it was going to be. So it cost us an extra, $4,000 to ship the crates over here because they lied about the weight of the shipment. So, and we were just on the hook for shipping it. They said it was 7 crates. They told us it was this weight, and then they went over by a bunch and basically said, if you don't pay for it, it's not coming to Canada, and we're not doing the show. And at that point, we'd already put a bunch of money in for other stuff, so we'd be on the hook, and we had some sponsors of the show, and like anyway, a bunch of stuff went wrong with that show. Needless to
Yeah.
say, it was a good learning experience. We've made that money back through others, through sales later on. So
Mm-hmm.
we're probably back around just over even, maybe
Mm-hmm.
$2,000 above even on that one. Would have been nice if they had helped us out, but they literally didn't mention the show at all until too late. And they mentioned it one
Mhm.
time over the course of a month and basically didn't help us at all in even remote anyways, even though it was very easy to do.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating when people do that.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. It's just annoying because you kind of like, there's at least some trust
Hmm.
on both sides that people will do what they say. And then
Yeah.
when they don't, it's, yeah.
Since your experience with Baboon Attack Studios, Hashtag Gallery, and Broken Cage Gallery, how have they influenced your style as a graphic designer? Or would you say you are able to keep business and your design separate? Is your minimal design style more a product of social influences than your business practice?
Well, I mean, the broken cage stuff, like I said, well, doesn't really affect my design too much because he was just helping me out, sell some prints. Like he's just a friend of mine that I met through the art world and through going to events at his space. And so I was just trying to help him out with some, hopefully make some money off selling some of my prints so that he can make a cut off of it. But the rest of it, like hashtag gallery, I try to keep the design for that really minimalist because a lot of gallery stuff is just white walls and kind of minimal. I mean, I did look at a bunch of other galleries when I was designing the logo for it. That just to get an idea of what the aesthetic was like for those other places, so that we kind of somewhat fit along with the other guys. I've always been a kind of minimalist designer, anyways. I just like that style and like nice clean edges and flat colors. The part of that's probably just due to having so much overwhelming you every day. You walk around town and see logos and billboards and advertisements, and then you get social media now, and I guess back in the early 2000s and whatnot, you get pop-up ads happening all the time, and just get bombarded with constant stimulation. And I think what I like about
Yeah.
minimalist design is that you don't have all that stuff, so it's kind of a nice break for your eyes.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I was
walking
just going
around
to say
and
that it is
just bombarded with
overwhelming.
advertisements is overwhelming a lot. So yeah, you can't look away. Like everywhere you look, there's a logo or branding or something. So being able to look at something that's not that is a
Hmm.
nice escape.
Where do you see your career in the next 10 years? Do you see yourself going to Europe or settling more in North America with satellite gallery locations that can function independently? What do you see in the future, or do you see yourself returning to Canada, focusing on your creative practice locally?
Yeah, good question. I never really look all that far ahead, to be honest. I just more focus on what we're doing at the moment. I mean, down here in Mexico, we've also got a space called Artworks,
Hmm.
like art forward slash works. And that's a combination of a co-working space on the
Hmm.
third floor, which is where I'm speaking to you from right now. Hashtag galleries on the second floor of the building. And then the ground floor is art studio space. So we've kind of expanded on the gallery idea and added in. We were fortunate enough here to find a really, really nice building in a really good area of town called Roma Norte, where a lot of
Hmm.
it's kind of like in Toronto, like the I
Hmm.
guess Queen West type area, like Queen Street, King Street kind of type place. So our location is really good, and we were fortunate enough to get a good deal on the rent as well through a friend whose mother's a real estate agent. She helped us out quite a bit in finding a really great location. So we have kind of expanded on things a little bit. The in terms of like branding and marketing things, like hashtag gallery and artworks are separate, um, so separate look and feel to them. So that the gallery stays as a gallery, and then the rest of it is the more workspace part of it, and shop area. So, I mean, hopefully this continues to go well. We're on a good track right now. We officially opened the new space in January, and we're building up a roster of people that are working in the co-work space and artists that we're working with here in the city, as well as the international ones we already work with. So, I mean, it would be nice to kind of have satellite gallery locations in different places that can
Hmm.
function independently. That would be nice. That'd be a good next step. But I think right now, because we're in a new city and we're have to meet new people, and there's a lot of networking to be done still, and getting ourselves into the art scene here officially, that's going to take a little bit of time to do still. It's going to require me learning a lot more Spanish so that I'm fluent and not just understanding, but speaking in conversation.
And we'll be right back. Not just por favor, cerveza. That's Spanish, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thankfully, I'm a little bit past that point now, but definitely when I first got here, it was, learning from menus and advertising and stuff, and through Duolingo, and also a bunch of friends here that teach Spanish as well. So I've been, going with them and doing some lessons officially now, and getting better. I'm understanding now, but not conversational quite yet. But
Mm-hmm.
we're almost in there. But there's a lot of there's still a lot of meeting people and a lot of networking and a lot more collaborating with other artists and curators that are already working in the city
Mm-hmm.
to get our name built up and get ourselves out there. We are working on my next meeting actually today, right after we're finished this, is with two other partners that I'm getting together with to make a mural festival here in the city that will hopefully take place late November
Mm-hmm.
and be a yearly thing. But we've got kind of the base stuff done right now. So it's in terms of recontacting wall or building owners and getting permission to use their walls,
Mm-hmm.
and then locking down a sponsor. But we got some potentials on the go here right now. So hopefully that works out, and that'll be part of the repertoire and get the gallery name a little bit more known in the art scene here,
Mm-hmm.
and keep doing what we're doing, keep helping artists.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I understand you're talking about, the gallery and how much you love just helping artists and everything, and just like the whole, the shows and having the parties and stuff. But did you ever not find it stressful, like just working with the artists and getting all of that functioning on a sort of daily sort of schedule? Did you ever notice that, or was you were on your toes all the time and you're just thinking and being creative and just working with everybody, and it didn't even affect you?
Yeah, I don't think I ever really realized when I was stressed out. So I probably was stressed out and just didn't think about it, to be honest.
Oh, that's funny.
I would say that the stuff that gets more stressful is like that, like I was saying with the artists that we tried to fly in, and they ended up just lying about stuff, and a lot of money is involved. That's when it gets stressful. The more money is involved with something, the more stress it causes. Because
Yeah.
like something like shipping stuff from Spain to Canada, if it's going to cost $3,000 and then all of a sudden it jumps up to 4,000 or up to $7,000, sorry, like doubles in cost,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of extra money. So that's when things start getting stressful because you said one thing, they've said one thing, and then all of a sudden it changes. And the only way for the show to continue happening is if you just say, well,
Yeah.
I guess I gotta do this now.
Mm. Yeah. You're kind of forced into it.
Or you got to cancel the show. And if we cancel the show, that's a month out of our schedule that nothing is happening.
Yeah.
So then it's all of a sudden, do we just say, nope, screw you, this is all done, it's over with, go away,
Yeah.
and book a local artist in really quick after we've been paying for advertising and hyping the show up and
Mm-hmm.
getting people excited about it, all of a sudden saying, oh, he canceled on
Mm-hmm.
us, and then just calling it quits? Or do you go the other way and just suck it up and do it and see what happens? We chose to just see what happens, and unfortunately, they proved they were not good people. But that's how it goes sometimes. But I don't really realize that I'm stressed at all. I'm sure I do get stressed. I just don't pay attention and probably don't realize that I am.
Oh, that's hilarious. Because yeah, I think what you're saying is that you have been stressed with all that's been going on with the gallery, but you kind of channel it into positivity, into like how you're helping the artists and everything, and you don't see it as stress. It's just when the money's there that it gets stressful. So that's really good that you've been able to sort of channel that possible stress into something really positive. That's really good.
There's always ways around things. There's always ways to do things differently. It's just a matter of doing it and moving on.
Yeah, and it's just seeing it differently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the other question, you said you were working with in kitchens and at a lawyer's office, right? But specifically, when you were working in kitchens,
Yeah.
did you find that working in kitchens with like all the kitchen staff, and it was like kind of like a family, I'm guessing, Do you think that influenced your sort of gallery interactions, or just working at the gallery, interactions with artists?
And that was kind of like
Mm-hmm.
I would say part-time job because it was only like 3 days a week or 4 days a week, but I was doing that on top of running the gallery at the same time. But like those kind of things, the reason I like doing it is because I'm really good at
Mm-hmm.
it. Like firstly, good at that.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. And like I don't have to think about it. I can just go in. I usually try to make sure that I was just working on the line, so I was actually putting the food together, not necessarily doing the prep stuff in the back,
Mm-hmm.
just because I enjoyed it more. It's more fast paced,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do it without thinking about it. It's just kind of fun. It doesn't pay well. Like the front of house, like being a server or bartender for all the money is like
Oh, wow.
some of them are making like $1,000 a day, whereas in the kitchen you're making
Mm-hmm.
what like if you're lucky you're making $15 an hour. Like it doesn't even equal out the amount of work compared to what you're paid for that kind of thing. I mean, I think tipping should just be abolished in general. It's a stupid practice, but the the whole idea of it was just something that was easy to do and it was fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go there, I could think about what I had to do at the gallery in order to market things properly. I could be, jotting down notes on the back of, chip paper or whatever,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
and organizing stuff there while mindlessly making food for, 10 hours or whatever it was a day and just having some fun with the friends there. But yeah, I mean, working in restaurants is always kind of like a family environment a bit. Like you're with those people a lot of time, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's usually a good time. There's always one or two people that are jerks, but most of the people there are pretty chill, and it's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's also a lot of like working there for long hours for low pay, and then everyone goes
Yeah.
and ends up going out after work because it's a stressful environment in there as well. So you're working there for a bit, and then you end up going out and drinking with everybody until 3 in the morning, and then doing it all again the next day at 10. So if you don't if you're not careful, you can get caught up in that lifestyle as well because it is fun. It's like being in university again, right?
That's funny.
And that being said, a lot of people you work with are in university or just graduate university. So
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
the older you get, the more you're in the kitchen, and you're like, why am I here? I should not be working in a restaurant anymore. But it's also fun. So you don't really think about it. You just kind of do it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Graeme, for being part of this podcast today,
So thanks for having me.
and good luck with your meeting today, and getting the mural set up.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, yeah. It's looking like it's in good shape. We got
Mm-hmm.
the pitch deck for the building owners all put in place now. So we're gonna meet up about that. And there's a woman that's a mural artist here, and she's pretty well connected in the mural scene here too. So
Yeah.
we've been chatting, and I mean, she figure out how to get her involved more officially in the project, and hopefully we can speed things up and get it going. And we've only got about 4.5 months left before we want to get this done, so we're starting to run out of time here. Usually need about 6 months, I think, in order in advance to really properly get
Mm-hmm.
things set. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can get this all sorted. At least find 6 walls to work with before then,
Yeah.
and go from there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've been working really well with just sort of thinking on your feet and figuring things out already with the hashtag gallery, and yeah, I think it'll be good.
Yeah. The nice thing is there's lots of people down here that are willing to do stuff too, so it's easy to find people that are eager to get involved with projects. So
Well, that's really good. Yeah.
just needs time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of networking, right? And I guess yeah, it's got a lot of people you're able to connect with down there that are really eager to work.
Yeah, there's tons of people down here and everyone's looking to do stuff all the time, so it's really easy. It reminds me a lot of being in Toronto or like New York or whatever in the mid 2000s where there's just a lot of like creativity and a lot of projects and stuff going on and a lot of people looking to do it. Toronto to me it seems like it's gone a lot downhill. I was back I was back in May for a visit. I was out on Thursday and Friday night, yeah, meeting up with friends downtown Toronto, and the whole city just seemed really dead and lifeless.
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. We went there, and it's like everything shut down. It's all quiet. I'm like, what is this? This is not the city I remember at all. It was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It was really strange. Like Friday night at some of the bars that were used to be the busiest, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago,
Yeah, things are changing.
those bars are all totally dead. Like I was inside with a group of like, 10 people that I met up with, and it was like us and maybe
Yeah.
10 more people in the entire place. And this, normally it's got 40 or 50 or 60 people in there. So
Yeah.
it was really a bit weird. And just walking around the streets, it was really quiet. No one was really out doing anything.
Well, it's shifting. Like it's probably going to come back. It's just in a sort of the ebb and flow of the city life, right? I think I've seen this over the decades where, there's been times where it hasn't been that great and then it's come back up again and been all vibrant and energetic and all that. So
Well, it's because it goes down to nothing, and people are like, "Well, this sucks,"
mhm.
and then let's make something good, and so they do make something good, and then, but I think we've gone like it feels like Toronto just kind of got past that point in like
Mhm.
I don't know, like even 2015 maybe,
Yeah.
whereas down here it seems like the opposite. It seems like it was back in 2005 when there was a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of music, there's a lot of art, there's a lot of
Mhm.
just stuff happening and like a buzz going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't afford to go out anymore. It's so expensive. I think that's part of it too right now because everything's just so expensive. But like
Mhm.
I said, it's the ebb and flow of city life, right? So thanks again because I think we're getting close to your like yeah, right now it's actually 4. So well, 4 for me, which is 2 for you.
Yeah, 201 here.
2,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I should go. Gotcha.
Our meeting is now officially done. Okay, thank you so much, Graham, again for being a part of the podcast
All
and
right.
we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Later.
Join me next time as I go down another rabbit hole with another creative professional on their insights, their inspirations, and their ingenuity.